what were your experiences like in the 1950s?
Well, in 1950 I was getting out of college. I was in college at the University of Chicago. And there definitely was a streak of political theory that America might be overrun by the communist Chinese and the Soviet Union, and there was a movement all around the country, a political movement, to try to prevent people from getting into political power who supported anything to do with communism. And people in the United States were accused of supporting communist supporters, and that became part of a movement to discredit liberal thinkers or anybody who wasn't a right-wing advocate. And I saw that at the University of Chicago. There were investigations from the House Un-American Activities Committee, and they brought the president of the University of Chicago to a committee hearing in which they attempted to say that everybody at the University of Chicago were communists. So that was part of what was going on.
Okay. And how would you characterize the 1950s economically and socially?
Economically?
Well, I started my business. First of all, when I got out of college in 1951, there was almost no work for college graduates. And so, because of that, I ended up finding work that was available. And I ended up starting a business. I learned the building materials business, and so I started a business. And I did it only because I couldn't find normal economic employment. So it was a difficult time. There was not a high level of activity. And it wasn't until later in the 1950s where I think the economic activity picked up. At least in my experience.
And socially, it was like the civil rights movement. How did that progress in the 1950s?
Well, the civil rights movement, I think, came later. There was stirrings of the civil rights movement, but that mostly occurred in the 1960s. So it didn't really start in the 1950s.
Okay. And how would you describe kind of what the 1950s was like in terms of McCarthyism, and how did McCarthyism affect American culture?
Well, people who believed that there was a threat from communism tried to use that to gain political advantage, and in fact, liberals and moderates were targeted by the right-wingers who said that there was a communist threat to take over the government.
And how did the culture of the 1950s change, like from the beginning of the 1950s to the end of the 1950s?
It did. Big time it changed. It was conservative.
Well, Dwight Eisenhower was elected president, I think, in 1952, and he was president through 1960. He was a Republican, of course, and a war hero, but he did not take part in he did not believe in the communist scare. As a matter of fact, Joseph McCarthy used the communist scare to try to bring Eisenhower down. I think in general, Eisenhower today would be thought of as a liberal. He was a very moderate Republican. And the people who supported him, like Henry Cabot Lodge in Massachusetts, Hugh Scott, the senator from Pennsylvania, they were all what you would think of today as very liberal. And they had a problem with the right wing of the Republican Party that wanted to push the country to the right.
Okay.
Well, I think one of the other things women's liberation in the 1950s, and that was a really important movement that women decided to take control of their lives and not just be a reflection of their husbands, and go out of the house and work. And it really changed the American family because women sought their own careers and began to further their ambitions. That was the beginning, a very important beginning, of the women's liberation movement. Definitely.